The Fir Tree. In 2009, a Russian man named Artyom Sidorkin checked into hospital with chest pain and a persistent cough. Doctors ran scans. They saw a mass in his lung. They assumed cancer. They opened him up to remove it. It wasn't cancer. It was a tree. A 2-inch fir tree was growing inside Artyom Sidorkin's lung. It had branches. It had needles. The roots had begun embedding themselves into the surrounding lung tissue. The leading theory is that Sidorkin had inhaled a small fir seed at some point, possibly months earlier, and rather than expelling it, his body simply allowed it to germinate. The warm, moist environment of his lung turned out to be ideal growing conditions. When surgeons made the incision, they initially thought the dark mass was a tumor. Then one of them looked closer. The needles were physically puncturing the lung tissue from the inside, which explained the chest pain. Every breath he took was pushing his own lung against a tree. Sidorkin said he had coughed up blood in the days before surgery. That was the tree. He recovered fully. The fir tree did not. The cockroach. In 2017, a 42-year-old woman in Chennai, India, woke up in the middle of the night with a strange sensation in her nose. She described it as something moving inside her head. She went to hospital. Doctors examined her nasal cavity and found nothing immediately obvious. They ran a scan. A live cockroach was sitting in the space between her eyes, in the skull base, directly adjacent to her brain. It had crawled in through her nostril while she slept and had moved upward through the nasal passage until it found a space large enough to rest in. It had been there for 12 hours. The removal procedure took 45 minutes. The cockroach was alive and moving throughout. Doctors had to use a suction device to extract it without pushing it further toward the brain. The slightest wrong movement could have sent it deeper. It came out intact. The woman said the sensation of it moving inside her skull was something she would never be able to describe to another person. The teratoma. A teratoma is a tumor, but it is not a normal tumor. Normal tumors are uncontrolled cell growth. A teratoma is something different. It is a tumor that contains fully formed body parts: teeth, hair, eyes, bone, in some cases partially developed limbs. They occur because of a specific type of cell, a germ cell, that contains the genetic instructions to build an entire human body. When these cells malfunction, they don't just multiply, they build, randomly, inside you. Surgeons have removed teratomas containing multiple, fully formed adult teeth, thick masses of dark human hair, sebaceous glands actively producing oil, and in the most extreme cases, structures that resemble primitive eyes, complete with retinal tissue. These are not transplanted materials. They are not foreign objects. Your own body grew them. The most disturbing part is not what they contain. The most disturbing part is that teratomas can occur anywhere. They have been found in the brain, the spine, the liver, the stomach, the testes, and the ovaries. They are most common in women of reproductive age. Many people carry them for years without knowing. The Crustacean. In 2018, a man in his 20s went to an eye clinic in India complaining of irritation and blurred vision in his left eye. He had been experiencing symptoms for several days. He assumed it was an infection. The ophthalmologist examined the eye and saw movement. Inside the anterior chamber of his eye, the fluid-filled space at the front of the eyeball, a live daphnia was swimming. Daphnia are water fleas. They are tiny crustaceans, barely visible to the naked eye, that live in fresh water. This one had somehow entered the man's eye, passed through the cornea, and taken up residence inside the eye itself. It was alive, it was moving, and it had been reproducing. When doctors extracted the creature, they found not one, but multiple organisms. The original daphnia had laid eggs inside the anterior chamber of his eye. The eggs were also removed. The man recovered his full vision. The mechanism by which the daphnia entered the eye remains unclear. No similar case has been documented before or since. Rapunzel syndrome. In 2017, a 18-year-old girl in the United States was admitted to hospital with severe abdominal pain, nausea, and significant weight loss. She had lost over 40 pounds in a year. Doctors assumed an eating disorder. They ran a scan. Her stomach was almost entirely occupied by a single object, a hairball, a compacted, dense mass of human hair measuring 30 centimeters, roughly the length of a forearm, filling her stomach completely and extending a tail-like projection down into her small intestine. The condition is called Rapunzel syndrome. It occurs in people who compulsively eat their own hair, a condition called trichophagia. Hair cannot be digested. It accumulates. Over months and years, it compacts into a solid mass called a trichobezoar that sits in the stomach, growing larger with every strand added. The girl had been eating her hair since childhood. Nobody had noticed. The surgical removal took hours. The hairball was extracted in one piece. It weighed approximately 4 pounds. She had been carrying 4 pounds of her own hair inside her body. The stone baby. In 1999, an 84-year-old woman named Zara Aboutalib was admitted to a hospital in Morocco, complaining of abdominal pain. Doctors ran a scan expecting to find something routine. They found a calcified fetus. In 1955, 44 years earlier, Zara had gone into labor with her first child. The labor was long and complicated. She was taken to hospital, but fled before the procedure could be completed after witnessing another woman woman die in childbirth. She went home. The pain eventually stopped. She assumed the baby had been reabsorbed. It had not. The fetus had died inside her, and her body, unable to deliver it and unable to reabsorb it, had done the only thing it could. It calcified it. Layer by layer, over decades, her body had encased the dead fetus in calcium deposits until it became stone. A lithopedion, a stone baby. It had been inside her for 44 years. She had gone on to adopt children. She had lived a normal life. She had carried a calcified dead baby inside her body for longer than most people are alive, and had not known for certain what it was until 1999. The stone baby was successfully removed. Zahra Abutalib survived the surgery. She was 84 years old. The parasitic twin. In 2003, a 7-year-old boy in Kazakhstan named Alamjan Nematilev was brought to hospital by his parents. His abdomen had been swelling for years. Doctors had previously dismissed it. His parents described him as always looking pregnant. Surgery revealed why. Inside Alamjan's abdomen was his twin brother. Not a teratoma, not a calcified mass, partially developed human body with a head, a torso, limbs, hair, and nails that had been living inside Alamjan since before birth. The twin had a primitive circulatory system. It had been drawing nutrients from Alamjan's body for 7 years. The condition is called fetus in fetu, a fetus within a fetus. It occurs when a twin embryo is absorbed by its sibling in the earliest stages of development, but rather than being fully reabsorbed, continues developing inside the surviving twin's body. The parasitic twin weighed approximately 1.8 kilograms. It had been growing inside Alamjan for his entire life. He had been feeding another human being with his own body without knowing it existed. It was removed successfully. Alamjan recovered. He is the most documented case of fetus in fetu in medical history. He was 7 years old. The worm. In 2023, a 64-year-old woman in Australia was admitted to hospital with memory loss, depression, and behavioral changes that had been worsening for a year. Her doctors ran every test they could think of. They found nothing. They referred her to a neurosurgeon. He ordered a brain scan. The scan showed an abnormality in her right frontal lobe. He performed surgery to investigate. When he inserted the probe into the affected area of her brain, something moved. He withdrew a live 8mm parasitic roundworm, Ophidascaris robertsi, from inside her brain. It was wriggling as he removed it. It had been alive inside her brain tissue, moving through it, feeding on it for an estimated 12 months. It was the first time this species of worm had ever been found in a human being. Ophidascaris robertsi is a parasite that normally lives in carpet pythons in Australia. The leading theory is that the woman had handled grass contaminated with python feces near her home and had accidentally ingested roundworm larvae. The larvae had traveled through her body, through her gut, through her bloodstream, until they reached her brain, and there they had stayed, growing, moving, eating. The neurosurgeon who removed it later said that finding a live worm in a human brain was something he had never expected to encounter in his career. The woman survived, but continues to experience neurological symptoms. There is no confirmed treatment for Ophidascaris robertsi infection in humans, because nobody had ever had it before.